despite the fact that there are like these like at least a very glaring issue with the team, they're finding enough success to be 16-11 this season, the Raptors, despite the fact that they are very much still lacking depth in the center position. And with the injury struggles, the back issues of Jakob Poeltl this season, he hasn't been at his best. And the issues with traditional centers or lack thereof in the roster, those issues have been even more glaring this season. And we finally have some clarity as to what the front office perspective is for the Raptors regarding this position. Let's have a look at what was said. And this came before the recent win against the Miami Heat. At the time, the Raptors had lost 6 of 7. They had a little bit of a mini break after the play-in turn. But ahead of that game, we had Josh Lewenberg of TSN, Raptors beat reporter, who was on the broadcast in the pregame discussing what he is hearing from the Raptors front office. I would play the clip, but I fear there could be some copyright issues with TSN. So, very good summary here provided by Omer Osman at Omer Osman 200 on Twitter. Very good follow for Raptors news. I would recommend if you are on the app. But essentially, the Raptors are not looking to replace Jakob Poeltl. They are looking to supplement the center position and bring in other players, which I think is the right move, as I spoke about in the previous edition of the Raptors Happy Hour. I went over specific, or was it in one of the last two? Anyways, head to the channel where I talked about specific players the Raptors could target, because I went through the AD situation. That's also in a video on the channel. And I just don't really think there's a feasible trade there for the Raptors. And if they are going to get him, it would have to move Jakob Poeltl on, which I'm fine with. It's just I don't really see the trade being super feasible for the Raptors and realistic. Anyways, there is a very high percentage chance that there is a move for the Raptors coming up. The Raptors still have the intent of being under the tax, and I've never wavered off that. I believed all season they want to be under the tax. They're slightly over the tax right now, the threshold. They want to move under the tax. But specifically mentioned on the broadcast here were guys like Daniel Gafford, Goga Bitadze. Don't think Goga Bitadze would get moved. Daniel Gafford might be a bit too expensive for what the Raptors are trying to do here. But Raptors are looking to make a move for the center position. Typically, or mostly, they are looking for somebody who can back up Jakob Poeltl. But there are rumors coming around and very credible reports from the likes of people like Jake Fisher, who is suggesting that the Raptors are still targeting Anthony Davis and Domantas Sabonis. Now, maybe these are a little bit more far-fetched, because if you're going for Sabonis or Anthony Davis, I see absolutely no reason whatsoever why you would keep a hold of Jakob Poeltl to pair with those guys. I think that'd be an awful fit. I know Anthony Davis likes playing the 4, but I think if he's playing the 4, you need a 5 who can space the floor. Because there's just so much restricted paint access if you're playing like Anthony Davis Poeltl. I also don't really see how you could possibly get Anthony Davis without putting in Poeltl, unless you're using like Barrett and Quickly. But if you're doing that, like, you're just sacrificing so much of your guard play. Again, doesn't make sense to me to go after a player like Domantas Sabonis or Anthony Davis unless Jakob Poeltl is in the deal. So maybe the situation is, if it's Davis or Sabonis, we're okay to put Poeltl in the deal. But maybe the priority right now for the Raptors is to look for a player who can back up Poeltl. And I think that's the best way the Raptors should be approaching this trade season, given the assets they have. Sabonis, for me, when I heard his name linked here, I don't know what the right word is. I wasn't pleased to see the Raptors potentially having interest in Domantas Sabonis. I'm not a super large fan of his ability to influence wins. I think he's a great player, but his play style is not super indicative of winning. I think his play style is that of a player you'd want to be a little bit better. The fact that he's not a great defender, great rebounder, but not a great defender, which is something the Raptors need in this spot. Not a good shooter, which can lead to some issues considering how much money he's making. $42 million this year, $45 million next year, $86 million the next. 42, 45, then $48 million the year after that in his age 31 season. And again, it's just not a player that's really like, he's not really earning that paycheck at the moment. Like, he's had some great years with Sacramento. I just think it's really not a good fit to acquire a player making star player money to put with Barnes and Ingram. Like this year, he's averaging 17.2 points on a bad Sacramento team. Like his numbers are down. He really should be averaging like 19 points on close to 60% shooting. That is what he can do. He's not a very good floor spacer. I know he's shot okay from three, but he's not like a threat outside to like space the floor. People are okay to allow him to kind of take these threes on. So for me, this is not a very good target for the Raptors, but it could be like, similar to the Masai Ujiri era where they're going to make phone calls. They're going to ask around. They are going to see what is going on in these trade markets to see if they can cut a deal. And maybe they're just feeling out the situation for Domantas Sabonis. So for me, again, I don't think this is a very good player to pursue. Anthony Davis, we've talked about it on the channel rather extensively at this point. I don't really see a fantastic trade out there that does make a lot of sense for the Raptors. And Anthony Davis makes a whole lot more money than Domantas Sabonis does. So if you're going to go for Anthony Davis, I think, like Mr. Snow is saying in the chat here, does Mama Kilic really space the floor? Yes, I wholeheartedly believe he spaced the floor. And I think if you're going for Anthony Davis, that's a player that I'd be pretty comfortable moving into the starting five. Now, you'd have to find a backup somewhere because those are like your only two bigs. I don't trust Mobo for NBA minutes. I'm okay with, like, if you go for Anthony Davis, you move Pirtle, like, if there's a good trade and that can happen out of it. Like, the Raptors get a better deal than I would expect the Dallas Mavericks to ask for. Like, if you're trading Pirtle and RJ, I'm okay with Mamu starting, to be honest, next to Anthony Davis, because Mamu can space the floor. Anthony Davis can play down low, and you can get AD playing in his preferred position as the power forward. That's something I would explore. But to me, Pirtle is a good player. I know he hasn't looked like it this season, but I trust him to get healthier, start performing better, be more influential to the team. And I think that the Raptors, if Pirtle's out injured, if there is this issue with the back, also you don't have to like rely on him for as many minutes. If you can get a proper backup big to play in the spots behind him, I think Goga Bitadze would be, like as Josh Zoomer said, that's somebody looking at, would be an excellent pickup. I just don't really see the Magic having a very large interest in trading that player, considering he's become like decently important towards the rotation. Now, if Mo Wagner returns from injury and he becomes a little bit more expendable, then perhaps that can change and he become somebody who could be actual good trade candidate for the Raptors. But the names I mentioned previously, like lower tier players that can give you stability for the position, guys like Brook Lopez, Kevon Looney, not super flashy, but I think players that could help the Raptors and just give the depth needed for this position. Don't think the Raptors need to swing for the fences for this spot. I think, like, hey, you have all your picks. If you do want to swing for the fences somewhere, like, you're able to do it, even in, like, the current state of the Eastern Conference where the Raptors maybe haven't been at their best lately, yet are still the 3 seed at a 16-11 record. I'm not sure I'm ready to make the big splash on a player I don't believe is, like, a fantastic fit for the team. And, like, I don't think Anthony Davis is that fantastic fit. I don't think Domantas Sabonis is that fantastic fit. Therefore, for me, look for a backup that is going to give you good, solid minutes, good stability, and is not going to break the bank as far as trade assets are concerned. But I mean, at least the good news is very much that the Raptors front office understands the need for somebody to fill this role as the backup big. And again, the desire is predominantly to keep a hold of Pirtle. So we'll see what materializes out of that, but I am happy that they understand where some of the issues lie and that they need to address this position. Absolutely. Which they haven't done for a large number of years.